Redditors who massively peeped up at work. What happened? A very important and very big customer placed an order for some chemical bulk to be delivered early January. Our contract with them stated that every day we were late we would be fined millions. The bulk plant finished on time and just needed the drums to pour the bulk into. Warehouse come up to my office. I was the purchaser responsible for buying the drums. Where are the 250-liter drums? Bulk plant need them. It's fine, I thought. I placed the order before Christmas. I remember doing it. Looks at SAP. Why is the supplier never late? Checks my order, mouth goes instantly dry and I start to sweat. I had placed the order, but I forgot that for this particular supplier I needed to email them the PO. We had just changed the system to allow SAP to auto email the supplier after we placed an order, but not for this one supplier. I knew this, but must have forgotten. These drums had a 2-week lead time from the supplier, so I knew I was dead. Not only would we have had millions of pounds of fines, but the production plant would have been put on hold, having to store tons of bulk with nowhere to put it. I went and told my boss, and just told him I had funked up. Being an awesome guy and boss, he thanked me for being honest and told me it's going to be okay. He called the supplier, sweet talked them, and because we were a good customer they allowed us to take another customer's order. The drums were delivered next day. That was about 9 years ago, and I still think about it. I worked in a pizza place, and they caught me eating olives on camera. It wasn't 2 to 3 olives. I could eat like 1,000 in a shift. I really don't know why, and it's a time in my life I want to forget. Accidentally left out the move next method on a loop that sent out an email broadcast, which meant it mail bombed the first recipient in the loop until we realized what was happening and killed the process. The CEO's email was the first email address in the loop. He was an asshole anyway, and was absolutely incoherent with rage when his Outlook crashed when downloading 15,000 emails inviting him to take a satisfaction survey. Good thing it was only a test. One of the managers where I work had the junior id guy add a vacation autoresponder to his email, and the confirmation window had a checkbox apply to inbox. The manager never cleans his inbox and the id guy decided to check that box. Something like 10,000 emails were sent that day. Important clients who he would have been conversing more often with were getting multiple hundreds of vacation notifications. Nothing bad came from it, and most of the clients were good-hearted about it. He was getting replies like, "Frank, please stop. We know you're on vacation." Working the stockroom at Malwart. Grabbed a Pepsi pallet with a forklift and didn't realize it was a short pallet. The forks came out the other side and through to the pallet of glass Coke bottles it was up against. When I lifted the Pepsi, the Coke came up with it and dumped the entire unwrapped pallet of glass bottles, spilling all that sticky soda on the floor. That mess was hell to clean up. However, the vendor had to eat the cost because that store's posted policy is that they cannot leave unwrapped pallets unless it is being worked. Oof peep. That reminds me of what happened in my workplace a few years back. My coworker was trying to take down a pallet, but he had the forklift too close to the racking. He accidentally pushed the support beam above the pallet he was going for so far up that the pins busted and both pallets 2L Coke bottles on that top rack tipped. Luckily, nobody got hurt. The pallets were wrapped and neither one fell completely, but they were hanging so far over the edge that most of the contents ending up falling anyway. That entire end of the warehouse was flooded with Coca-Cola. There were so many bottles on the floor that we couldn't drive equipment through, and we were wading through the sea of Coke, squeegeeing it out the loading dock door. 4 months later, we could still feel the stickiness. I used to work at a Sonic drive-in and some ding left peep dropped a 5-gallon bag of Dr. Pepper syrup. Thing popped when it hit the floor and managed to cover over half the store's floor in syrup. Boss was pissed. Those bags were like 55 a pop. Slammed a forklift into a Camaro. Oh damn. That is not good for the resale value of the forklift. Are you kidding? Now he gets to paint a horse on the side like it's a WW2 fighter plane tallying its kills. It was a Camaro. not a Mustang. All he gets to paint is a little boaty. I dropped a screw inside the engine edit motor of a TGV train. Oh god. We spent half an hour trying to catch it by moving a magnetic stick inside the crankshaft, with oil spilling everywhere. The engine was new and about to be mounted on a train that was supposed to run later in the day. I was so terrified I would possibly cause quite a lot of trouble, since no other train or engine was available. Shout out to my manager, who finally got that screw and definitely deserved his half a dozen of croissants the next morning. It's great how in France, croissants are used as payment. They're used as compensation payment for dumb stuff you do that causes more work for your coworkers. Also for other occasions. Getting married, croissants. Sick leave, croissants. Birthday, croissants. Damn, in New Zealand it's a box of beer. Yep, in Australia, that would have been a box straight up. I was new to SQL and accidentally mailed a list of people with deceased_date is not null instead of is null. So an entire marketing campaign was sent to dead people. That eventually led to our marketing tools being hard-coded not to mail dead people, which makes sense, but I was terrified when I found out. Nothing good has ever come out of statements starting with I was new to SQL. My first day working at a coffee shop, I left my Sharpie in the oven. Finally found it while trying to warm a sandwich and had to shut the whole thing down to be cleaned. It smelled like a chemical weapon. Years ago I worked in an office and had a very cool boss who was the general manager. He and I were quite close and used to joke around all the time. I had been corresponding with a fairly important customer overseas about an issue they were having, and I needed information from her to move forward. I asked for info a few times, but she kept coming back with different details than what we needed. I sent an email to my boss saying something like, "I can't believe I asked the same simple question 3 times and this is what I get in reply." Except I didn't send that email to my boss. I sent it to the customer. I was in a panic when I realized what I had done. Went to my boss to let him know what happened, and he thought it was hilarious, but that I should write a brief apology to her for an outburst. Was dreading the reply the next morning, but to my astonishment our customer actually apologized to me for not paying attention. Felt like I got away with murder. Lol, I used to work for a company that designed online banking software in early 2000s and sold it to banks. We had one customer, a bank president, complaining that our product didn't work on AOL. Like the SpeepT browser associated with the SpeepT dial-up internet. You've got mail. Dude starts ranting that there are still millions of customers who use the product. I thought I muted him and said, well, millions of people eat McDonald's every day. That don't make it a good flipping idea. Only, I forgot to mute. Everyone stared at me in terror. After the longest pause in the world, he shouts, "Excuse me." Then he started asking which browsers we supported. Then he said he was going to call our VP. Then he did. And proceeded to tell the VP I was the only honest one at the entire firm. So I got stuck managing his account. Controls engineer. Made a copy paste error while programming, and a 2 was a 3. So one machine tagged at 3 was waiting for conditions of 2. So naturally the lift moved when it thought it should, and crashed into another machine. Course I'm having to stand there figuring out the issue, while maintenance is up there replacing busted parts. But because I've made 1,000 changes it didn't click fast enough and well, it happened again. Program doing exactly what you told it to, bane of all software engineers. The antithesis of do as I say, not what I do. I was a nanny. A little 2-year-old I was watching fell down and hit the back of her head on the concrete. I rushed over to her, but she didn't move or blink. Just laid on her back motionless. I tried to check for breathing and pulse and pretty much blanked on everything I'd ever learned in CPR/first aid training in my panic. She seriously looked dead. I screamed for help. The neighbors came running. I told them to call an ambulance. The police. Fire department. Ambulance showed up within minutes. She was rushed to the hospital and a million tests were run. Turns out she barely even had a bruise. No concussion. No seizure. No injury. Nothing. The doctor said she probably just got scared and froze. For just long enough for me to lose my speep. Her parents were charged $5,000 to tell them their child got surprised. I worked in a nice steakhouse. First week, I accidentally put salt in the sugar bowls and sugar in the salt shakers. Customers started to complain about their sweet steaks and salty coffees. We had to pull all the salt and sugar from each table. My last day as a waiter. During the first week of my first job in animation, after I graduated I had to move a bunch of scene files from one server to another. The files were heavy, so I was told to just cut and paste them to make it faster. I accidentally put them in the wrong area, and without thinking just deleted them. Went back to move the files weren't there. I had forgotten I hadn't copied them. I lost 5 minutes of full animation. My longtime friend who recommended me for the job got in speep because his backups didn't catch the files and my direct supervisor worked for 21 days straight to help redo all the animation. The studio and everyone involved were way nicer to me about it than I expected. I kept my job and I bragged in donuts for the whole crew for a week after. But it was an awful start. The chef was angry that day. I was advised by my coworkers to do whatever it takes to get on his good side. I thought, hey, I'll just try to avoid him. He was standing in the cooler taking inventory. Beside him were the 5-gallon containers of prepped food. I sneaked in and tried to quickly grab the ranch container, but in my haste, I nudged another. It was the French onion soup. All 5 gallons of it. On his pants and shoes. Yes, he was upset. The prep girl was upset. I had 10 minutes till lunch service started. I have no idea how I'm still alive. I was a bartender. I knocked down the entire top shelf. Thousands of dollars in liquor. Was promoted to terminal manager, and I was a dumb 25-year-old idealist. We had an essential employee, a mechanic, who kept our fleet of trucks running. At least that was his job description. Less than a month on the job, it came to my attention that he was a working alcoholic and his work on our fleet was underwhelming. My boss told me to fire him once we had a new mechanic ready to come in. I told the old mechanic that he should probably start looking for new work if he couldn't do the job. Word got back to him through the pipeline that he was going to be fired. I went to a bar with my assistant manager after working 40 days straight and low, and behold, the mechanic showed up. Long story short, the mechanic attempted to abduct me with his adult son and dump my body in a frozen lake. The whole thing became a large dramatic bullspeep event that put me in the hospital for a few hours and we both lost our jobs. I work as an apprentice in a knit and printer repair office. We had a tech apprentice last year who finished his education and sent out an email to everyone, around 20 people including management, saying that it was his last day and thank you to everyone. We got along pretty well. We're around the same age and we both hated our jobs and how we were treated, so I replied with that "God I wish that were me" devianted comment meme. Realized an hour later I hit reply to all instead of reply and sent it out to the entire office. Almost speed my pants. Luckily no one brought it up, except 2 coworkers I'm on good terms with who found it funny. But God, I wanted to die. Very first tech job as a youngin, and I forgot to verify if someone had backed up files before a cleanos install. Lost the guy's Outlook archive files with 10 years worth of conveniently stored and important email. Apologized and sheepishly turned the issue over to admins. Pushing the problem off to someone else. I'm a habitual user of this tactic myself. Concessions at a movie theater. I was making popcorn. But I had learned that if we used a bit more seasoning and oil, the popcorn tasted insanely better. What I didn't know was the popcorn machine had broken earlier and wasn't stirring the popcorn anymore. So after I had made a new batch and no popcorn coming out, I decided to check on the machine and a hot glob of oil flew into my eye. started cussing and screaming in front of a whole bunch of customers, and got rushed into the back to wash my eye out. My first day as a dishwasher at a resort. I dropped a tray stack with executive china. I dropped an empty glass of lemonade while working in a cafe. I feel very connected to your comment. Not me personally, but a guy I worked with a feed mill accidentally added the incorrect mineral bags to the sheep feed mix that contained copper. Wiped out an entire flock of over 100 sheep. Not me, but I worked at a place that made wiring harnesses. Dude's 4th-ish day he's running the wire cutting machine. Suddenly says he's sick and leaves. Never came back. He absolutely messed up everything on the cut. What's sad is he wouldn't have been fired. Or even been in trouble. He didn't have to leave. A customer got the best of me. I worked upper level customer service for an Australian winery conglomerate that shall remain unnamed. They owned a bunch of exclusive brands, but only had a team of 6 or 7 customer service reps to service them all. 2 of us got paid 1/hour more to be upper level customer service and take escalations, which is fancy talk for gets peep on by the wealthy. A customer from their top brand made an online purchase, which we shipped immediately. He decided he was upset about that, as we should have read his mind and known he wanted it 3 months later. Anyway, he called me a retard. So I cancelled his order, his wine club membership, and deleted his customer profile. I was not let go due to them literally needing me to keep the department running, but my manager burst a blood vessel in his eye. Not me, but my dad. He used to be a microbiologist and was working in a hospital with a tray of test tubes containing some kind of pseudo-rabies. He went us over it and spilt rabies everywhere. He's an accountant now. I work at a jail. We have things called keeper parts to keep people away from each other since they may have conflicts on the street or otherwise. I accidentally let these 2 guys go into the same room together. Guy 1 is f***ing massive. Guy 2 is small and allegedly killed Guy 1's friend. Guy 2 doesn't know Guy 1, but Guy 1 knows who he is and what he allegedly did. So, they go into this room with about 30 other people, and after about 20 minutes Guy 1 casually walks over to Guy 2 and beats the ever-loving speep out of him. Easily cold killed him. Luckily we stopped it before it got worse. But I still peeped up massively. Not related, but Guy 1 was recently killed by his friend when they were drunk and his friend accidentally shot him in the head. Now Guy 1's friend is in jail for murder. Measured something on a construction site off by a foot. It wasn't discovered until it cost $150,000 to remedy the mistake. Nothing happened to me because it was a $10 million job. Accepted 20 fake 100 bills because I hadn't been taught how to spot fakes. I mean, that's kind of the store's fault for not properly training you, to be honest.